Get me in there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We are here in the second series of the day. 2Good4Wololo. It's going to be Crackety here in core up against ABCD, Squiz Wraith, and the Sniper AOE. French versus Germans. Now, Lidakor, what can you tell us about this matchup?
I was hoping that you won't ask me what I can tell you about French versus Germans because this is a family-friendly stream. But, well, looking at this matchup, HRE and Malians, this is a civilization combo that Core and Crackety love. And this is one of the things that they kind of messed around with. It is something that usually goes with the sling into Burgrave Palace play. We have seen that, I think, attempted. It may have been Crackety's team in last weekend's 2v2 event, Clash of Lash, but both of these players are high on this strategy. Whereas on the other side, it is as simple as it gets. Sniper with the French, and then Wraith going in with the English. So, a very straightforward and relatively obvious civilization combination against a high upside, high risk, high reward style civilization combo on the other side.
You know, looking at this from the outset, a lot of people might think, okay, Malians, Holy Roman Empire, I know what's going to happen here. But I would just say, I think in this matchup, there might be a different way that you could play this. Instead of going into the Burgrave Palace, I think the Regnitz Cathedral might actually be the best bet. As long as you have got the wood economy to drop down enough stables and support them, I think going Castle Age Knights here as the Holy Roman Empire would be a big brain move. Because then not only are you playing against the French, who has got those Feudal Age Knights, but you're also playing against the English, who is going to be tending to make Longbowmen. Obviously, he doesn't want to have to make Spearmen, but he's going to have to if you're making all of those Knights. The only reason I'm saying that is because I suspect it's going to be very difficult playing against Longbow Knight as a man that's only making Men-at-Arms.
Yeah, that's right. I think the biggest concern you always have there is lack of mobility. How are you gonna stop those French knights just roaming your base, picking off your villagers every once in a while? Especially if you're being heavily slung by the Malian player might not even have much to defend with, so those knights will find a lot of real estate when it comes to raiding. So, yeah, I would love if Core and Crackety didn't do the sling strategy. I think it's something that's expected nowadays. Yep. And it's something that's very risky, especially against civilizations where you have the mobility disadvantage, like against the French.
Yeah, and I think the French have got all the tools that they really need to deal with this, right? Like, you've got the Knights, and you can just go double stable. Any kind of Spearman pressure that gets put out, you just deal with through the Longbowmen. So you're absolutely fine on that. Whereas I feel like if all of a sudden you don't go Burgrave and you go Regnitz, then now you're kind of like putting the pressure on the enemy, because it's like, hey, actually we're going stables and you're in trouble. But we do see Mantiquora coming out, so there's not going to be any kind of trade, at least not early trade, going to be happening today. Villagers moving out to stone here for Core. A little bit of a curious decision, not something that we do always see for... Well, yeah, what's going on here, Lidakor? Is he going for a second TC potentially? So not going to be doing the sling strategy.
Yeah, that would be very interesting to see. Indeed, he's mining stone. He's also pretty heavy on the lumberjacking department for the time being. I'm curious. I'm really curious now for a second TC. I think it's a very risky call, but against the French it might... Okay, never mind. Forget it. It's just going to be for arrow slits.
Okay, that's strange. I guess, no, the arrow slits does make sense because you're playing against the English, but the problem that you're going to have is, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about arrow slits, that's all. But I guess that makes sense though, doesn't it? He's just, it's a very long way to get that extra stone, but I guess it makes sense. But we do see double scout opening here for Crackety. He's looking to pick up plenty of sheep. I suspect he's done that as well. If we take a look down at his base before, I think I saw close to about 15 sheep down there.
Yeah, that would be a big advantage. Now, the English, they don't necessarily need that much sheep, but it's the French that could be concerning. And, well, it looks like not a lot of sheep out there for Crackety. About 12 in total.
12, yeah. So not the greatest for a double scout opening, especially on a team map.
Yeah.
And considering that no one else went double scouts, it was just him. So he could be looking to go into professional scouts. So obviously the professional warrior scouts are very solid. But look at this. Might be losing a knight, and indeed he does. So trading a villager for a knight, I'll tell you right now, Lidakor, that's not a good trade. That is not a good trade.
And the tower with the arrow slits comes in clutch. That's the first knight also getting picked off. Immensely valuable because that first knight is supposed to initiate any kind of contact. It's the one that's supposed to kind of start setting you back a tiny bit, from which you can start snowballing. And look at that, the tower is really coming in clutch with the arrow slits. The second knight is already heavily damaged as well.
Yeah, this is a really nice opening here. But now the longbowmen going to be looking to put up a bit of a strong position. This is what I was kind of fearing, that sure, the arrow slits come out and it gives you that little bit of extra range and a little bit of extra damage on that first shot, but you still can't get gold unless that outpost is in front of the gold mine. You're not going to be collecting gold, and we see a villager go down right now. So Wraith doing a great job to recognize that and just abusing this pretty well. But a market now going to be coming up. Now, Lidakor, can I ask you the question? In team games, do I need a market to send resources to my ally?
Yes, you do.
Okay, so that could be the reason why he's looking to do it here. Can we take a look at the resources for Core? I want to see how close he is to aging up, because obviously there's no units at the moment for him, but we don't see any resources. And there's the gold coming in through now. So there's the age up. So that's the reason why that market was going up. He needed to send resources to his ally, and the Burgrave is going to be the way that it goes.
Yeah, nice timing over there. And you can see we already have 2 mills coming out as well from Crackety. So we've been talking about how risky it could be to see this sling strategy work. And, well, looks like they're going for it. The question is how Wraith and Sniper will punish this, because everything that Crackety and Core does, it's seen right now. So, answer is a big question mark right now for me, but they seem to be doing the right steps. They're denying that gold mine, idling a lot of villagers. They started harassing the eco of Crackety as well, and there's a lot of idle time right now on essentially both of the players from Crackety's team.
Yeah, I feel like at this point, all Sniper needs to do is just keep making knights. Wraith can probably even add in a second town center behind this. He's going to be fine. And as long as the knight numbers stay strong, he's going to be absolutely okay. He's got things like chivalry that he can lend into quite heavily. And just as long as he keeps cycling those charges on any potential men-at-arms, he's going to be in a great position.
It's also about the raiding. You just need to make sure you shut down the slinging player, because keep in mind that right now Core's eco is very feeble. It's not just the fact that he's got a lot of idle time. The bigger thing is that he's cut off from gold because of those longbows. So if you can harass Crackety, Core could be very strained on resources, and Crackety has nothing to defend himself with. So just a couple of knights running circles around his base could be immensely valuable.
You can see how many resources are being sent right now by Crackety to Core. He knows how difficult a spot that Core is in with these longbows on the front, and great job by ABCD for recognizing that, hey, we should hit the Holy Roman Empire player so that their economy is going to be in the ditch, and that's exactly where it is right now.
It is. And sure enough, you have passive gold income for the Malians over here, but this is a timing-sensitive build. You can't just sit back and wait for a passive gold income to come in to send to your teammate, especially because even after that, you have to pay taxes. So time is of the essence, and as you said, you just charge him with the knights, disengage, rinse and repeat, and this is how you will decimate those men-at-arms.
And that's exactly it. And look, he can even fight up against these lower number men-at-arms. They don't have their two-handed mace right now. It's not a good opening here for 2Good4Wololo. They might be too good for Wololo, but it seems like they might not be too good for these French guys. They're doing a great job of dealing with this so far. And you can see that the power spike that you get from the Burgrave is just going to be completely eviscerated here.
Yeah, especially without maces. As you said, if they had maces, they would have been able to put up a fight against those knights, but without, it's a complete disaster, and now you've lost everything that you had, so the knights could even flirt with the idea of charging in. Now, remember that tower does have a relic inside, so you still want to respect it, but we're reaching the number of knights where you can start to become a little ballsier with them, and I'm concerned right now. I'm genuinely concerned for Core and Crackety in this game, because their eco has taken quite a bit of a punishment, and as we discussed, this build is almost an all-in style build, and so far it didn't work.
Yeah, we talk about it being an all-in style build, but remember, there are still villagers, there are still relics that are being picked up with this strategy. So behind the scenes, he is slowly collecting relics. Are we able to take a look at this outpost and see what the range is with the arrow slits? I'm curious to see, because a longbowman's got a range of 7. With arrow slits, that's normally a 7 range outpost. But with the relic inside, that should be buffed up from 7 ranged up to something like 9.1 maybe?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. You still have to find a good angle, and you can see, as Wodka is showing us, that I think there's still an angle for the longbows to deny the gold mine.
Yeah, I suspect there probably would be, but I mean, at this point in the game, does even denying the gold really matter? Like, you can just see how much this French team is overwhelming their German opponents right now. It's looking very, very solid, but still yet to see Chivalry come through, I suspect, for Sniper. I don't see any healing out for these Knights, but the numbers are still looking solid for them.
Yeah, at this point, he probably just wants to go for the numbers. There's just no downtime in these battles, so Chivalry probably wouldn't help as much as having extra 2 or 3 Knights out there. And look at that, forward range from Wraith. They're realizing that it takes a long time for those longbows to arrive, so he's gonna have a proxy range over here, or at least he's gonna attempt to make one to just make the reinforcements a little better. And villagers with their shivs out, trying to charge to the front line. Feels like desperation could be kicking in here for Core and Krakody.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of miss micro right there, but villagers do head to the gold mine. At this point, though, it's starting to look a bit worrisome for 2Good4Wololo. They are starting to struggle, but the men-at-arms are holding on. The Knight numbers aren't building up, which is definitely the good thing, right? Like, typically you would expect for the Knight numbers to be rising, but they're not. They're just kind of staying around this 5, 6, 7 Knight number, which is actually a really good thing for 2Good4Wololo. So they might be quite happy with their position. They're not too far behind when it comes to villager count either. Sitting at the moment at about a deficit of 8. But remember, they've got things like the relics that are working for them. They've got pit mines that are also going. So these are factors to consider.
Yeah, for sure. I think economies are relatively close. Now, it looks like we finally have some Knights from Sniper coming in to raid the other player as well. And that could be concerning for Krakody. All their attention is focused over there, and there's a bigger issue. You said the pit mines, you said the gold income, but looks like we have a shortage of cattle inside, so that gold income might actually be a little too strained for Krakody right now.
Yeah, we can see that he's still core sending 300 gold to Krakody, so it's a little bit of a reverse-a-roo, a flip the switch indeed. Core, he is the one with the extra gold, and Krakody the one running out. He's like, hey, I need more cows. And there's so much pressure being put out on the front of this base now. And they're just pushing through, but now the longbow mass is getting to really... This is a difficult to sustain pressure, or rather defense coming through from the Germans. Like, now that the longbow numbers have risen to this point, I think it's time that you could probably start adding in battering rams quite safely. We can still see that they're sitting on 1 TC apiece over on the east side of the map. Look at this raid coming in. Hitting villagers on the gold mine here. It doesn't look like we've got any textiles either, so they're going to have to run for their lives. Nothing to prepare these or defend these guys, unfortunately.
Yeah, this is what you have to do here. They're realizing that all the attention from Krakody and Core is inside Core's base, and Core's army is slow, and it's actually tiny even. So you can just go aggressive on the other player or pick off some villagers easily. And as you said, the longbows, you have so many of them with a network of citadels, or network of castles rather, that they can actually start taking good engagements against these men-at-arms, because the individual damage is not much, but you have so many of them that you still decimate these armored units.
Yeah, that's exactly it. This is part of the reason why I thought going for a stable opening might have actually made a lot of sense. But obviously in this position, it's something where you kind of knew that it was coming, and I think that the French guys know how to deal with it. They've done a great job in dealing with it so far throughout this game. It's been a really solid way that they've approached the game so far. But how do you deal with these Knights though, Lidakor?
You don't. That's the problem. They don't have mobility. Now, Krakody, in theory, could go for a couple of Donsos back at home because there is no longbow support to those Knights raiding him. The problem is that they're just being slowed down so much, and now, as we discussed, you have a lot more flexibility for Wraith and Sniper because the longbow mass is large enough to just be able to fight this by itself, so you can just detach the Knights and start raiding. I feel like the window for them is shrinking.
I was going to say, you know what my theory is? What if you just walled in your gold mine? Wall in the gold mine with the houses, and then that way at least you don't have to worry too much about like those 1 or 2 night raids. You buy yourself a bit of time. It's probably only going to cost you like 100 wood to do it as well. So it's surely not that expensive. You can easily fit it. And look, just it's relentless right now on this gold mine. He's going to have to head to another gold mine to find a way to keep that income coming through. And look at this. Just this is Prairie in a nutshell here. Raids coming in on all corners of the map. villagers idle underneath the town center. He's sitting at the moment with a huge mass of idle villagers.
Yeah, and it's getting worse and worse. Like, keep in mind, at one point, this mine is going to get depleted. And then, what do you have to work with? Now, finally, men-at-arms are charging out here. Once again, knights could shield very nicely, and this is a really good choke point to hold as well. I feel like the men-at-arms here might be insufficient.
Yeah, he does have the heavy maces upgrade, though. And the important thing to remember is the javelin throw is coming in behind. This is all the javelins that he needs. This is enough to one-shot a longbow. So as long as he's just shift-clicking these longbows down individually, he's doing fine. He could have 20 javelins or 6 javelins. It doesn't matter, as long as he's one-shotting them. But the men-at-arm numbers beginning to dwindle. He's going to turn his attention onto that outpost on the front line instead of following it through on the backside. It probably makes sense. He buys himself a bit of space by doing this. Remember, the battering ram did come through. I'm not sure exactly where it is. It may have entered the enemy base here. You can see that there is a dot over there, but I suspect it might not be the battering ram. Yeah, I'm not sure where that bad boy went, but the men-at-arm numbers starting to look a little bit more solid here, Lidakor.
Yeah, for a long time, those knights from Sniper didn't really engage. And you see, there seems to be a lack of synergy here. Knights getting caught off guard, not all of them engaging, and lack of coordination resulted in a subpar engagement for Sniper and Wraith. Finally, Core is able to break out of his base. Crucially, I think he managed to secure a gold mine to the north, which probably comes in as a lifeline for him when it comes to resources. And looks like they might still be alive over here. Still no Constellation from Wraith, and there it is. Look at this. Could easily be the difference maker.
Yeah, wow. Well, I think in this position, Core and Krakeny have done a good job to... Oh, geez, that's a... He spots it. He also takes the sheep as well, but look at the raid coming in now towards this gold mine. Fortunately, he attacks a house, gives him a little bit of a heads up, and he does indeed get the heads up, running out of there, sprinting for dear life with the villagers. They're doing a little bit of a Michael Jackson shuffle. Unfortunately, only one villager goes down. That could have been terrible right there for Krakeny.
Big Castle Age coming in here with the Royal Institute. And while you won't have enough knights, I think, even with Royal Bloodlines right now to stop 30 men-at-arms, if you could get some arballetry on the field, that could slow this down. It's a one-dimensional army right now from Core, but you gotta be cautious now if you're Striper and Wraith, because you're outnumbered when it comes to army. 31 men-at-arms, and look at that. Mustafadi warriors making an appearance as well. So these heavily armored knights, they will find little success against these men-at-arms now.
Yeah, you're not wrong. The Mustafadi definitely changed the dynamic in the way that this game is going to be playing out, because the knights now, they're not just dealing with the men-at-arms, but instead going to have those Mustafadi that are just going to be able to clang them very quickly to death. So many Mustafadi as well, able to just engulf enemy positions. But look at this now, underneath the town center. Men-at-arms going to be chasing away the knights. It looks funny, doesn't it? Men-at-arms firing upon their, or rather the men-at-arms taking on the unit that's meant to counter them, and doing so well with it.
Yeah, that's why heavy maces are so dangerous, and that's why the Burgrave build is still a dangerous build to fight against, because a single type of unit is so useful against essentially everything that the opponent can throw at you. Now, these were so far Feudal Age Knights, now they're Castle Age, they're still lacking Royal Bloodlines, so once you have those, you gotta respect those Knights, but it's only 6 of them against 30 men-at-arms. That's the big difference here. A lot of premium units for Sniper, but little numbers.
It was a great job by these German guys to manage to hold on that long. The pressure that was being put out by the French team was massive, and they still managed to keep it all together. And now it's starting to look like the game is going to be favoring 2Good4Wololo. Perhaps they were 2Good4Wololo, because this is looking pretty solid, the way that they've managed to come back into this game. Now, keep in mind, the advantage still kind of sits, or to be honest, the advantage has definitely swung now. Take a look at the villager graph. 103 vills versus 104. Yeah, so there was about a 15 vill difference at one point. It's now down to 0.
They cannot take these engagements against the men-at-arms, but they can't go and raid because they risk being overrun. They wasn't able to use the mobility in time, and by the time they started doing raiding damage, it looks like Core and Krakeny had enough to stabilize, and now it's just a flood of men-at-arms, and if you had crossbows, this could be defendable, but you don't. You don't have anything to stop those men-at-arms with.
Yeah, and we don't even see any crossbows in queue yet. Obviously, Sniper's just aged up now to the Castle Age, so he's got them available to him. He could be looking at other options, like maybe +2 ranged attack, as well as veterancy on his longbows. I think he goes up to 10 damage with that, so looking at doing 4 damage a pop here will be pretty nice against the men-at-arms, but still crossbow is going to help out a huge amount here Look at the numbers of men-at-arms, up to 44 men-at-arms. He's rampaging through the base. He's just ignoring the units going after houses now. Men-at-arm numbers surrounding the knights completely. Absolutely engulfing them and forcing them back. There's no units whatsoever now. He's down to 3 knights for Sniper. Sniper, an incredibly good player. The Conqueror player, one of the best in the game. And yet still comes up empty against this build order.
I mean, at this point, losing all those houses means nothing to him because he has no population left. Lost most of the knights. His villager count has been decimated. Now it's a clear lead for Core and Crackety. They can turn on cruise control. And with Crackety reaching Castle Age, a lot of options open up once again. They don't even need him to put up army to the field right now because Wraith and Sniper are just unable to stop the flood of men-at-arms.
Yeah, they just won't stop. And I think that's what's so powerful about this, right? Because you've got infinite gold coming in from the Malians. The pit mines, together with the Mansa Quarry, are going to mean that there's non-stop gold coming in. And then they're going to turn that gold into infinite food through the mill training the cattle. And behind this, we start to see that Core is gathering those relics. He's picked up, I think, almost every single relic on the map. Only one remains at this point. And a sacred victory is now in the works with a timer. And the good game gets called. Sniper surrendering. And once again, the Malian HRE combo demonstrates its power.
I'm not gonna lie, I did not expect this one. The initial reaction seemed so good from Sniper and Wraith. And Crackety and Core, they've been in trouble. But one thing I do want to highlight is Core sneaking out for relics. As you said, the key thing was that he had a steady influx of gold. And the moment he got 2 or 3 relics, those longbows, they weren't able to deny all the gold from him. So Malian Sling, in combination with the relics, it was enough to bridge through that gap. And they could just play with a very compact base, as you said. Finally, the GG gets gold from Wraith as well. But yeah, big thing, being able to sneak out for relics and then just being able to play with that ultra compact base. You have the passive gold income, so you don't have to move out for gold that much. And you do have the cattle to work with, so you don't have to move out for food. And I mean, this graph tells you the whole story. This looked like a good game for Wraith and Sniper for quite a while, but then finally, Core and Crackety were given a moment to stabilize, and from that point on, it's a snowball.
Yeah. I feel like the one thing that was missing from this strategy was a scaling option from our English-French team. I would have loved to have seen the English player go for a second town center. Now, the reason why the French player can't go for the second town center is because he needs to make knights. He needs to keep up constant knights. There was never any threat from spearmen. There was at all. There was not. I don't even think did we even have a single spearman made this game. I don't think that was the case. So I would have loved to have seen a second town center coming through from Wraith early on. Maybe even looking to go to open with a second town center. Obviously, there was a lot of pressure pushed on towards these enemies. And I think that they were maybe even looking at going for a timing attack because we did see the battering ram come through. But obviously, in the end, Core, Crackety, they held their own. They held on for dear life and they managed to survive. Beautifully done. And of course, the victory comes out for them because they did indeed survive.